Welcome to Destination Freedom. I'm Christopher Gronsky. I'm glad you're here. Um, it's been an exciting week of serving clients and seeing what's happened, uh, things going on in America and the world. It's just kind of crazy out there, isn't it? Glad that you're here. I guess it's really available for you to get all stressed out if you want to look at the world and be following all that. Of course, that's the intent, is for you to feel all stressed out and not living your best life. And you want to just make sure that that's not happening. So I want to be of some help to you. Uh, I was going to have a special guest on today, but my guest had a scheduling conflict. And so that's going to be pushed off to next week. But I did want to cover some things, um, kind of preliminary things that I would have handled before our talk. And before I get into that, let's just talk a little bit about what's coming up and what's going on. Um, I just want you to know that um, our website has been migrating, and it's much better than it's been in the last week or two. So I'm thankful for that. Our state citizenship class is up, and I'm learning some of the back office stuff that I can approve people's requests for classes and workshops, things like that. So I think it's going to still be a little sticky as we move forward. We'll try to get it smooth and learn how the site works and all that. And there's things on the site that are not accurate that we're going to edit and put those things together. And my team of Michael is on a lot of that stuff, and I'm thankful for that. But that's just part of our work every day. Some of the things that we're looking forward to, two things that I can think of. One is Acapulco, which is not going to be happening in Acapulco, Mexico. Next year, and that's going to be in February. It's going to take place in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. So that's exciting. And so typically, at least from my experience, the last number of times that I've been to Mexico and in Acapulco, is you would fly into Mexico City, and sometimes we stayed the night in Mexico City and then take the next morning's flight to Acapulco or something like that. But one of the things that we've found is that Monerotopia, that's the people who are supporting the Monero community, and Monero is a privacy coin, a privacy cryptocurrency. And privacy, as you can well imagine, is going to be a premium in the future. And so this is privacy in your finances, which is awesome. And is I remember it was Jeff Berwick who made reference to Monero as being the Bitcoin they wanted. Now, the best part of Bitcoin, in my opinion, is that it is transparent, that it's visible, okay? And certainly that you don't have banks in the middle of it. And of course, banks always are doing things so that they can continue to steal from people. How is that? By creating fractional reserve lending, so they don't really have to lend anything. They just give credit and all that. That's how bankers do their crap. And crypto certainly is the intention. One of the intentions of Bitcoin was to eliminate that fractional reserve so that your transactions are what is actually in the cryptocurrency. But the thing about it is Bitcoin is not private in the sense of that every transaction is on a blockchain, can be seen. So if someone knows your address, they can see exactly how much Bitcoin has come through or that is in your account. You can see that. So I think that's perfect for governments and for corporations that have to have transparency. It would be great that if every time government spends money that it has to do it with Bitcoin, that way we can see and track every one of their transactions and their spending. Not like now where the pentagram, right? The Pentagon misplaces $6 trillion. How do you misplace $6 trillion? I thought I left that in my shoebox under the bed. 6 trillion. You know how much space $6 trillion make? So many believe that was the purpose of 9/11, was to misplace $6 trillion. It's crazy. Couldn't account for it. It's madness. But anyway, I digress. But talking about cryptocurrencies, so the Monerotopia is going to take place in Mexico City before Acapulco next year. So we're hoping to have a presentation there. We're still trying to confirm that. We definitely, regardless, Michael, I think we'll go, and I still think that we'll participate in whatever way they'll let us participate. But then we'll go, because that community is really a wonderful freedom community. Not all cryptocurrency communities are into freedom. Some of them just want to have a good investment or whatever, and they're not really freedom-minded people. There are many times there are people in the crypto space that are looking for government to approve it or regulate it so they can have safety. But as we know, in this community, those that give up freedom for safety, deserve neither. So that's that community. The Monero community is ours because they're into freedom, they're into privacy, and that's going to be a great time. So that'll be right before Acapulco, and that'll be Mexico City. So we don't know where that's going to be. We don't have a location yet in Mexico City, do we? We don't know what hotel or whatnot. Well, so anyway, it's going to be fun, and so Michael and I will be there, and I don't know if Uncle Michael is going to be there this time, but who knows who's going to go. Maybe my wife will go. That'll be good if we can get that all worked out. So anyway, that's next year. That's coming up. We're anticipating and preparing for that. Also, what's still in the editing stage, and that is my book, State versus Federal Citizenship, The Unknown Choice. But I am committed to every week moving that forward. Every morning I'm working on completing the edit that I have. So the book's already written. I'm just doing more editing so I can get it to the final editors, the ones that will read it for continuity and all the other stuff that they do. So that's coming. I hope to have that done before the end of the summer here. So that's cool. And so that's just some of the things coming up with Destination Freedom. And if you have any questions or you want to move forward or begin the process or whatever, just reach out to us at the website. And one of the ways you can is you can email us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about fear and anxiety and things like that with respect to government. And that's one of the things that I do a lot is field questions and calls from clients in the area of how they're dealing with government. Now, some of the bulk of our work that we do deals with the State Department in our beginning passport process, in which we're letting the State Department know that we're not a 14th Amendment citizen. We're a citizen of our state based on habitation and domicile. And then after that, we usually are going to deal with the state in the area of driver's license. And so I've done that kind of work here in New Hampshire. I'm encouraging clients in different states to take the initiative to do what I've done, which is actually meet with these government officials. And that's cool. And so we're constantly building a database, a record of all this correspondence and communication with the state on the subject of U.S. citizen, the definition of the term United States, things like that. And then there's the taxing authorities. We really, although we do have clients come to us that have IRS issues. Matter of fact, there was a woman that called me today about she couldn't get a passport because she had issues with IRS, and so she wanted to be able to travel, and we talked about that, and so she was concerned. And so what she was wondering is, now she's an American citizen, she's born in the States. She was wondering that if she traveled on a foreign passport to a different destination, if she'd have trouble getting back into America. The reality is, if you have tax issues, America welcomes you and makes sure that you come back. That's one of the things that you might not be able to travel on a U.S. passport if you have an IRS course, an issue over $50,000. So that's the issue. You won't be able to escape or get away. But she had a foreign passport, so I think she's going to be able to travel out easily. And she was concerned that she wouldn't be able to get back. I'm like, I don't know of any situation in which someone's born here that they would keep you from coming here. It's true. The administration right now wants to even have babies that are born in America. For them, if their parents are not born here, for them not to stay, and that child has no right to be here. But the reality is, it is still in America. The soil, or you have a birthright by being born in one of the states in the union. So, but in talking to her, I just noticed that she has a certain anxiety about dealing with government, which is really, I think, on some level, the way that they deal with children in school, public schools, prepares them never to question authority or never to think, thinking of the government as in charge. Okay. And that's just not, certainly not the way I think, but that's not the way it is. One of the things I talk about in my state citizenship class that you can take online is the authority, the power that you have, and then what is that relationship between you and then government, whether you're talking about the federal or the state and what have you. The way that the hierarchy, the way that life really is based on law, okay? And that is this. You are the power source of all power. All power is in the people in America. And really that's everywhere. If your government, if you have a representative form of government, then they represent the people. The people should be in power. Okay. And I mean, the Declaration of Independence is very clear with these concepts. It's, when it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that they're endowed, that all men are created equal, and they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. So as you can see, that is a reality, a truth all over everywhere. And there are certainly governments that are set up that are based on bloodlines of kings and such. That seems archaic, that you think that with the Declaration of Independence and that a country that's set up to be of the people, by the people, and for the people, you wouldn't have something as funky as kings and queens, but we still have kings and queens in the world. And some, I don't know about every jurisdiction, but some jurisdictions, the king and queen are titular. They're king and queen are in name only, and they don't really have a lot of power because some governments still are set up with parliaments and things like that, or what have you, a body of people. But in some of these crowns, the government belongs to the king or queen and all that. It's just really bad. And so I can't comprehend that that's still going on when people are realizing that all men are created equal. Okay. So that's out there. And so in dealing with government, when you look into that hierarchy, really the strongest government that should be around you is your neighborhood. That makes up your town. Okay. And if you're living in a city, then it would be like your precinct or whatever's local. That should be the strongest, most powerful government that we have, is your local government. And then you'd be checking that if you knew who your local people are and making sure that they're not going to violate you. Weaker than that should be the county government, not controlling more, that they serve the collective towns and are subject to those towns because those towns set up those counties to serve them collectively. And then weaker than that should be the state. The state should not be more powerful. And many times by law, they're not more powerful. And I know when I was selectman in my town, um, the because we were incorporated in the state, that's a giving up of power, but we're incorporated in the state. That meant that the state would have funds for us, or that there'd be welfare for us and things like that. That's why they incorporate, to get things. And then the government would control by, in New Hampshire, it's RSAs. Now, the way that the law reads in New Hampshire is, if the town doesn't govern in some way, then the state will govern. So the absence of certain statutes or codes in the town would empower the state to have a say in however it is. So, that's part of that incorporation. But again, talking about the authority of government, your local town should be the strongest. Weaker would be the county. Even weaker should be the state, and very impotent should be the federal government. The weakest of all. Why? Because the president is elected by all. He's the lowest guy on the totem pole. Okay. The representatives in the federal government are allegedly are our representatives, if you believe that. I gave up on the federal government a long time ago. I'm not, they don't represent me. Okay. But anyway, the representatives would be representing the people. They should be in charge of that whole mess. Okay. Senators are appointed, or should have been appointed, by the state legislatures, but in the 17th Amendment, they changed that, so they're popularly elected as well. That's a breakdown in the Constitution. That shouldn't be that way. But again, the federal government should be impotent. And even less than that would be like the UN or whatever. No power, no strength, certainly no army or anything like that. And that should be the hierarchy everywhere. But unfortunately, that's not the way people are trained. They think the president is the top guy. He's the king in America. That's the way many feel. And so he's running the show. They refer to him stupidly as leader of the free world. How insulting is that? Is that our government or our country here is what we're leading the world? Yeah, we're leading it because we have bombs to blow the crap out of people. That's the only reason we're leading. We're certainly not leading by example. That's not happening. But anyway, it's a stinking mess. So that should be the least powerful and controlling of anything. That's the way it is, and that's the way it should govern. But unfortunately, that's not the way people believe. Even attorneys, who many times are clueless, believe the idea that federal law trumps state law, is completely just ignorant. How do I know that? Listen, if the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, is the supreme law of the land, and it's what limits and governs and creates the federal government, it can't be amended unless the states approve that. That tells you that the states are in charge of that. All federal law has to be congruent with the Constitution. And generally speaking, it actually is. All federal codes, the Code of Federal Regulations, all that falls right under in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. That's federal law. It's congruent with the Constitution because they have legislative authority, exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever. That's just disgusting. So anyway, state is superior and should be. So before I get into some other things, I wanted to, someone was, one of our clients was talking to a friend or somebody that they knew. And so they were saying that they were going to, the idea of eliminating your income tax liability and all that is frightening for some people. And we're going to talk about that later on. But somebody's sent me this paper in which says, my lady friend asked Grok. Do you know what Grok is? I think it's like a AI search engine of some sort. Is that? Yeah. It says, ask Grok about this process. I figured on getting your opinion. So Grok, whatever that is some type. So this person sent this. So what the topic is: legality of state citizenship and forfeiting federal citizenship. Okay. That's how it comes up. And so it says here, it says state citizenship concept. It says destination freedom promotes the idea that state citizenship, as opposed to federal citizenship, may exempt individuals from federal income tax liability, citing constitutional protections. So right away, the AI makes a statement, and some of that's true, but based on constitutional protections, not too bright, because that's not what we do. It's not based in that. But the state citizenship is mentioned in the Constitution. That's true. And of course, the 14th Amendment is also in the Constitution. So that's there. But anyway, as far as constitutional protections, I don't know that. It says they claim federal citizenship imposes tax obligations while state citizenship does not. That is true. Okay. It says, however, this distinction lacks clear legal grounding. Well, we have a class that covers this, and what it is. Title 26 is the tax code. That's the legal grounding. We go by those definitions and what the tax code says. It says it lacks legal grounding in U.S. law. False. It says the IRS and U.S. tax codes do not recognize a state citizen. Well, the thing about it is that it's outside the jurisdiction of the federal government, but the Constitution acknowledges state citizenship. Article 4, Section 2. There you go. So, and of course, that's the supreme law. It says does not recognize state citizen status that exempts individuals from federal income tax. It's not that they're exempt because of that. The idea is that they're not in that jurisdiction. There are two entities that have a tax liability: the U.S. federal 14th Amendment citizen and resident aliens. They have a tax liability. Citizens of the states, not being a citizen, 14th Amendment citizen, have no income tax liability. And so here, to understand the concept, which doesn't get into that, is this idea. Listen, involuntary servitude, which is the way most people feel about the income tax, is illegal in the states. Okay. Involuntary servitude is illegal. Most people don't feel they have a choice. Okay. Now, income tax, the federal income tax taxes people, and it's not voluntary, contrary to what people think. No tax is voluntary in the sense that you can say, I'm not going to pay it. An excise tax is a tax that's based upon a privilege that is offered or something like that. That's the choice, is whether you want to take that privilege or benefit. For example, if you don't want to pay the gasoline tax, you don't have to buy gasoline. And that's the way the market would say. An excise tax allows the people to say, hey, we want to do that or have that. We don't want to do that or have that. If we didn't want post offices, then we wouldn't participate. If you don't want to pay postal taxes on that stuff, you don't have to receive the benefit. That's the benefit of, or the beauty of, an excise tax. The Supreme Court already disclosed that the federal income tax is an excise tax. What's the privilege? The privilege is being a federal citizen. It says in the 14th Amendment that they're guaranteed privileges and immunities. That's the nature of that. So that's the choice. And of course, if you choose that, then you're taxed and regulated. Otherwise, if you're being taxed against your will, then you are incarcerated. You are taken against your will, and you should try to escape immediately. Defend yourself, but that's not the case. Okay, you do have a choice, and that's most people don't. So Grok continues to say, all U.S. citizens, regardless of state residency, are subject to taxes on worldwide income. That is true. A U.S. 14th Amendment citizen is taxed worldwide. Then it goes forfeiting federal citizenship. Renouncing U.S. citizenship is legal under Section 394A5 of the Immigration Nationality Act. Again, you can choose to leave from being a federal citizen by buying your freedom. If you owe taxes, and typically in order to expatriate, you have to pay for, or you have to be current in your taxes. Otherwise, they won't grant expatriation. But state citizens don't have to do any of that. And nowhere in our work do we renounce any type of citizenship. Typically, what we have is that people are choosing federal citizenship ignorantly. They don't know they have a choice. So they only think there's one choice. And of course, that's the 14th Amendment federal citizen. John's on here. He says most taxes are indirect taxes. I would agree with that. It's rare. Um, it's rare that a tax is a direct tax. And a lot of times they don't like that because typically a flat or a tax favors the rich, they say, and it harms the poor. That's just the way that's showing up. That's what a direct tax would be. But direct taxes actually have to be apportioned. So that's a requirement in the Constitution. It says they only tax businesses or profits. That's not true. So they tax individuals, okay? U.S. citizens, federal citizens, and resident aliens. So, but anyway, that's and then if a person has a federal income tax liability, if a state has an income tax, they'll also be taxed that way too. So the states tax the federal citizen as well. And you can read it, and we have this in our classes. We'll show it to you so that you can see it. So anyway, so none of that is about, they say here, Destination Freedom claim that state citizenship avoids federal jurisdiction is not supported by mainstream legal precedent. Point to the mainstream legal precedent. I don't know what that is. So we deal with the Constitution and federal tax law. We say exactly what they say. We're not contrary to what the IRS states. So that's what we're citing. Okay. Legal risks. It says the IRS considers tax schemes promoting sovereign citizen or similar ideologies claiming exemption from federal taxes via state citizenship as frivolous arguments. Now, when you look up those cases where the IRS deals with it and refers to it as frivolous, what's frivolous is that taxpayers, those that are subject to an internal revenue tax, which is what Title 26, 7701, 26, not 26. No, you'd have to look up under 7701 the term for taxpayers. It might be 18 or whatever. I'm not sure. But anyway, look up what a taxpayer is, one that owes an internal revenue tax. So if you're a federal citizen, okay, then it's frivolous for you to have an argument that you're a state citizen when you're claiming on your tax returns, your passport, your driver's license, all these places you're claiming federal citizenship. It's frivolous for you to say, I don't have a tax liability. And that's what the IRS says. So if you read those documents, it uses the phrase or the word, which is word R, taxpayer. Only a taxpayer owes that, but you might not be a taxpayer. So again, however, it says, anyway, so it says legal risks. It goes in about the IRS. It says Destination Freedom's workshops reference avoiding corporate straw man and Social Security as an adhesion contract, which align with legally discredited sovereign citizen theories. Let me read that again because I don't think that this Grok knows, and certainly Grok, whatever that Grok is, has never taken my classes. It says here, it says, additionally, Destination Freedom's workshops reference avoiding corporate straw man and Social Security as an adhesion contract. I don't believe in adhesion contracts, okay? Nobody can sneak up on you and contract what we say. And listen, I'm not a fan about corporate straw man at all. There are others that Anna von Wright, she does that. She promotes those things. I don't support all that corporate stuff. Governments are in power and they're enforcing by force. Corporations are business extensions of government because they're incorporated with government. But we don't support any straw man type stuff. And an adhesion contract, they believe that if you do this, you're being contracted over here. A valid contract has full disclosure. Okay. I always say with respect to that is no one is obligated to fulfill any contract or agreement that's without their knowledge or against their will. Period. End of story. That takes care of all that. Nobody can trick you into a contract. It's called fraud. So again, Grok is misrepresenting this kind of thing. It says, then it goes into dual citizenship. And if you can do, you can be a citizen of a state by habitation, domicile, and a federal citizen. And you can be a citizen of different countries and then have still a U.S. passport. So then they have insights, as if Grok has an insight. It says service value. Destination Freedom offers structured guidance for navigating complex citizenship and tax issues with positive customer feedback, emphasizing ease and clarity. I don't know where it gets that. Where would it get that? Must come right off the website's wording. However, the lack of detailed service descriptions, e.g., specific deliverables of workshops, may limit transparency. Yeah, we don't serve the general public. We don't serve federal citizens. So we don't disclose, and I'm not out here broadcasting, how-to information for people to screw it up and to harm themselves and others. We only serve state citizens and people like that. So we limit that. Yes, it's true. So we're not out there broadcasting all sorts of things. So that is absolutely true. And so Lee says, can the IRS be abolished? It's not likely that the IRS will ever be abolished. The only way that it could be is if you abolish the Federal Reserve Act, then the IRS would go. And although they still would have some kind of taxing authority because people are connected to the District of Columbia. But the IRS works for the central banks. They collect the money for the transfer payments and the interest payments on the debt. That's the nature of the IRS. People want to make like, it's based out of Puerto Rico, so it's not legit. It's very legit. And it's constitutional. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. There you go. They have exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever in the 10 square miles, their jurisdiction. And that's where it is. So if you're a citizen subject to the jurisdiction thereof, like it says in the 14th Amendment, you're going to be in that jurisdiction. So it's not likely you're going to abolish it. It's too much control. They love that. Even if they took the amount of taxation and applied it into the corporate, it's not so bad that people are taxed the way they are. That's not the worst part. The worst part is that you have to give an account of every single financial transaction that you make. That's the problem. And the control that goes along with that. That's the biggest problem. You have no financial privacy, and that's corruption. And the founders would have never allowed that. It's too much private information. Then John says, didn't think they could tax people or labor. Yeah, a citizen of the District of Columbia, 14th Amendment citizen, they do. They tax because federal citizenship is a privilege. It's not, no one has a right to be in the District of Columbia. It's a privilege. And so, yeah, they tax that. Most contracts are minimum contract adhesion type. Yeah, I'm sure. Carlo. Hey, Carlo. Carlo is from Pennsylvania, my birth state. We're both Pennsylvanians by birth. Much love from Pennsylvania. Rock sounds like double agent to me. Yeah, I think this is giving out bad information. So anyway, they're talking about we have good feedback, legality concerns. The organization's emphasis on state citizenship as a means to avoid federal is legally questionable. Yes. So if you have questions, we have legal answers. IRS and courts Baba rejects that. We know that he repeats himself. Then says conclusion. That's what I want. This is kind of cool. It says conclusion. Destination Freedom provides tailored support for citizenship and tax status changes like that with strong customer satisfaction. Okay. However, geez. So that first part of that's just BS. It's like, however, here's the real point we want to make. Their claims about state citizenship exempting individuals from federal taxes are not legally substantiated. Oh, yes, they are. We do that. We just don't share it with Grok. Grok hasn't filled out a hold harmless agreement, so Grok doesn't get to take our classes. Grok's just grabbing at straws. Anyway, substantiated and may expose users to risk. Always seek an independent legal advice before pursuing such strategies. Yeah. So anyway, not for the faint of heart, which brings us to, dealing with governments and all that stuff. Grok is programmed by the government to deceive. I would tend to agree. Maybe this woman's taking this advice. So That's how she's going to seek counsel. I would recommend that she think for herself and listen and determine what's true for her. That's what I would recommend. And maybe I'll get an opportunity to engage and talk with her. But not everybody wants freedom. Some people want safety. And your government has, well, your government doesn't have the means to make you safe because they can't even keep you safe in prison. Okay. Take a look at how much safety is in prison, you know, not very safe. And so if that's the life you want, that's great. Pick it, choose it. But if you have in your blood some of that birthright of that um, resisting, resisting tyrannical government, then maybe there's something for you. And listen, this work we do is not resistance. We agree with the IRS. Okay, we agree with who has the obligations. Okay, and we have not one client that's dealing with the IRS because of our work. Now we have clients that are dealing with the IRS that were dealing with it before they came to us, and we help them sort that stuff out. And really our method is bring it all into the light, show everything, take a look at it, make it true, because people fill out tax forms. Everyone that fills out a 1040 form and they signed it under penalty of perjury as true, correct, and complete are liars. They're liars. They wouldn't know they don't know and are not trained. We're talking general people, and even those that are trained, still liars. They don't know because they've never read the tax code. If you've never read the tax code, you don't know if it's true, correct, and complete. And you know damn well that that the IRS is going to tell you if it's true, correct, and complete. But when you submit that paperwork to the IRS under penalty of perjury, they're relying on your testimony as true, correct, and complete. And that's how they're going to deal with you. That's giving away your power. And so, and it's astonishing that people do it. Now, a certified public accountant, even they don't look into the tax code because they're not tax attorneys. They don't know the law. They're trained by the IRS to do IRS work and bidding, and that's their livelihood. And they may mean well, but they don't know if what they've done is true, correct, and complete. How do I know that? Forbes magazine, if I'm not mistaken, Forbes magazine had four major accounting firms take a scenario in which a family of four, here's the income, all whatever they came up with their tax stuff, and they had them do their taxes. They did not come up with the exact same tax return, the same result. None of them did. Okay. Some of them had them getting back a lot of taxes, and some were paying taxes. Now, if the top accounting firms can't figure out the tax code or understand how to apply it, then it should be void for vagueness. Because I guarantee you the IRS they don't know. Listen, we know the IRS is corrupt in the sense that their books, who's checking the IRS's books? Nobody. Who checks in it? Oh, sorry. So anyway, so that's just the nature of that. So let me see if I can catch any of these things here. It says, Lee also says, if I become a state citizen and send my revocation of election with the IRS, would they come after me? A revocation of election is not necessary because I'm asserting you never elected to be a federal citizen. So there's no revocation necessary. As a matter of fact, we've seen not all revocation elections, but many of them are charged by the IRS $5,000 for a frivolous return. So I don't recommend that. And besides, usually revocation election doesn't deal with jurisdiction, because there are people that do revocation election while being employed and they're still paying into Social Security and other things. It's not a jurisdictional remedy, so I don't recommend it. But you can change. You need to see from the tax code who has the tax liability. Once you see that, you're going to know whether you are in that jurisdiction and have those obligations. Because all U.S. citizens, that's a 14th Amendment citizen, all U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live, and resident aliens have a filing requirement. It says so in the IRS's paperwork. And so this person says they haven't, Lisa hasn't pulled the trigger to fill the forms at my job, file the forms. Yeah. And again, if you're employed, that's going to change if you're going to take this pathway, because you can't have your employer withholding, sending to IRS while you're saying you have no tax liability. Your W-4 form is incorrect. That's what you're going to need to change. So if your job is important, if you love the company and they love you, well, then you can contract with them. It's not a problem. And we have IRS documents for that. Oh, Grok is a Twitter AI created by Elon Musk. Oh, never mind. Then it's good then. Okay, there you go. Destination Freedom, understanding of the tax code. That's funny. Well, the thing about the tax code is just like a number of things. You don't have to know the whole tax code. What we go after is we get to whom correct. You find out who the tax code is for, and then if it applies to you, then you can figure it out. So you can see whether you're going to be in there or not. And so that's how that works. So anyway, so that's some of those paperwork. But again, dealing with people, it's an amazing, it's truly amazing when you think about how the IRS works and how it's set up. I was on the phone this morning with a client and talking to a real estate attorney about filing paperwork and all that. And people enforcers are in automatic mode. There's not a lot of thinking going upstairs, and there's certainly not a lot of critical thinking going on upstairs to where people are questioning things. Like, for example, they wanted a social security number for the real estate transaction. Now, here's what I know. I know on page 4 of the instructions on the passport application, it says that the information provided on this form is voluntary. And so that's what it means. It's voluntary. If the social security number is not required on a passport application, it's not going to be required in a real estate transaction. So once you start looking at the paperwork they want you to fill out, you notice that the paperwork is designed to empower them, that you actually empower the title attorney to disclose on your behalf to IRS. So when you pull back and say, I don't need you to do that for me, then you can be responsible for yourself. And when dealing with government, you'll find one of the pathways to freedom is to take on responsibility of yourself. Most government encroachment is there because they offer safety there, or at least a perceived safety, because they really can't keep you safe. But they offer you safety, but then they're going to get regulation and control. So Lisa's going to talk to my employer to see if they will keep me as a contractor. Yeah. So this is a great example of if I was counseling you, Lee. Okay. If you're going to ask your employer if you can do that, I'll give you the answer already. It's no. Okay. There you go. That's the answer. So don't waste your time. But that's not the way I would recommend it. You see, if you change your status, then you come back to your employer and you say, listen, I did this process with the U.S. State Department and I no longer have a tax liability. I can't, my forms are improper now. I have new forms for you. I can't do employment. And so what I'd be glad to do is I'd still love to work here, but I'm going to have to do it as a contractor. See, that's not asking them if it's okay. I already know your company hires contractors. I already know that. They can do, and if they ask for the contractor's tax ID number or social, whatever it is, then they fill out a 1099. They already do that. And companies move their employees into contracting all the time. Now, maybe your company hasn't, but companies do. It is a thing, and yes, they can do it if they want. You might not be important enough for them to say, yes, we still want to hold on to you, even if you're not employed. But it's your choice. It's not their choice. Okay. If you say, this is the way I'm doing it now, I have to update my paperwork, this is how it is, then they can determine how valuable you are and say, well, yeah, we want to keep you here. That's fine. You just have to invoice us. And that's what you have to learn to do is whatever skills you have or whatever you do, you're going to need to do it as a business. Not that, and when I say that, it doesn't mean I've got to get capital and set up a business location, all that. None of that can be true. You can just be doing it from your house. You're not going to be filing. You don't have to jump through 10,000 hoops. I do recommend you get a business card because you're in business for yourself. I would design a letterhead so that you can write a letter representing your business, the nature of your business and things like that. Those are very cheap and inexpensive things. You might even set up a Facebook page describing your business and what you do. And if your employer doesn't want to keep you on and contract with you, go work for his competitor and see if they'll come on. You'll come on as a contractor. Say, listen, I have skills in this area, but I'm a freelancer. I'm responsible for myself. Now, if you want your business, when you're in the competitive edge, if you want your business clients to pay for your insurance, you're going to charge extra for that. And that just can be figured into your bottom line. If you only have one client, then your bottom line is charged to your one client. So if you have multiple clients, then that makes it much easier. And again, it's just the cost of doing business. Listen, I was working when I had my high-rise window cleaning company. I had $1 million worth of insurance. Now I had a lot of clients, so it was very inexpensive to have $1 million worth of insurance. It was like $200 a year, or something like that. But even if it was $100 or something a month, that's not a lot of money for carrying $1 million policy. But one client, I'll tell you who it is. It was Waste Management, Waste Moneyment. They came along and said they wanted $10 million worth of liability from me, as if I could damage $10 million worth of building or whatever, for them. But they wanted that safety and security. So I checked it out. I didn't really want to get $10 million. So what they recommended was there was another cleaning company that was a large cleaning company. They decided to step in and get the contract. And that cleaning company hired me to do what I've always done, and they kept the contract. So they charged the company more money for their exposure. So they charged a lot more money for that same service I provided, and I raised my rates just because I was put out. So I made more money. That this new cleaning company that didn't have to do any of the work got the contract because they already had $10 million worth of liability insurance. It's great. And everybody's trash collection went up because Waste Management wanted that safety. So, no, I always get to figure out if I know any of these people. It says, my state ID is expiring in August 24th. It's not. I've been trying to get into the alignment workshop for about a month. I can believe that. And I can't get in. What should I do? Well, if you haven't tried in the last 24 hours, then I would try again. Now you gotta, if you've been to the website before, and if you are a client, then you can call me at the usual number if you have that number. If you never talked to me, and again, I'll make sure that you get access. But if you've been into the website before, your email should be in there, and you should be able to get in and sign up for it. And so if you've done the full passport process, then that would be available to you if you've done the passport workshop. Now, if you've done the passport workshop already, then you're just going to have to go in and mark it as, apply for, signing into the class first, because that's a qualifier. So the website has to learn who you are and what you're doing. And I'll be glad to talk with you about that. So if you email us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org, and say that you'd like to talk, I'll be glad to help you get through that. And so anyway, so you can just email me what you just wrote and we'll figure it out. Okay. And then Lee says, so it's a double sword. I can have more pay for myself, no tax, or it can backfire on me. Oh, what? Because you talk to them about it? I mean, you can talk to them about, that you're making these changes to see what you're going to do. But, you can just let them know your intention. Just don't move towards, work at not looking for permission. That's not really what you want to do. You want to assert yourself because you're valuable. Listen, you make the company money. You're valuable. So, yeah, we may go long. It's all right. So anyway, and look, I'd be glad to support you and all that stuff. So make sure that you can. We've helped clients contract with their companies and all that stuff. And a simple contract, this doesn't have to be difficult. It can be very easy for you. And so, so anyway, so that's that. Dealing with government is a big deal. So we're going to wrap up pretty soon here, but here's what I want to set up next week's call, because I want to talk about some of these scenarios in which you deal with government, and whether you deal with your town, your county, your state, or the federal government. If you know who you are, then you can assert yourself. You can learn, and you can have fun, like I have had fun dealing with bureaucracies. Okay. And it's fun to deal with them when you know you're the powerhouse. Look, if you walk into a company and you're walking through all the building, looking at all the people working for you and all that, as the owner, you're looking at every job as being valuable, and you see these things. But if you're not, then you might be like, am I in the right place? Am I in the wrong place? And all that stuff. So part of what we help our clients do is learn how to deal with government, especially in like we were talking about in the alignment, where we're dealing with driver's license. That's some of the best place to learn how to deal with government. The first place that our clients learn to deal with government is just in the passport process. Part of it is going to the post office, presenting documents that they don't usually see. And some people are very nervous about that. You don't have to be nervous, but you do have to learn how to do and how to work that muscle so that you don't have any nervousness about it. So that's like baby steps. For me, I mean, I have a post office locally where they know me, they know our stuff. And so it's not a big deal because we've broken that in. Then dealing with your state government, like in the driver's license or the courts, or maybe your voter registration, dealing with your town clerk and all that. Those are great baby steps. And so by the time that you get to dealing with your state, then you'll be prime for dealing with IRS or whatever that is. And again, it doesn't have to be from a place of, do I have permission like a slave? You can say, listen, I'm the powerhouse. Let's check. Let's investigate. I remember one time the DEA, that's the drug enforcement people, they came to the house. Came to my house. They pulled up. Now I had guests in the house. It was Elle. She was there with another guy. They were in an RV because they had just been to the Pork Fest and all that. So they were actually got their cameras out, or they were kind of interrupting. And my wife, they knocked on the door. My wife came out. They were asking. They said, "Did you buy a capsulator on eBay?" And of course, they know that I bought one on eBay because however they found out, whether eBay disclosed or the seller disclosed, but somehow there was a trigger in which the Drug Enforcement Agency was found out that I had a capsulator. What's a capsulator? It's a little device that you load in gelatin capsules in, and that you can take herbs. And my wife buys herbs in large quantities. So then we buy the capsules, and she can fill up capsules because we buy a lot of herbs. Now, I imagine the DAs, looking at people who are selling drugs or whatever it is. But again, they show up. And so my wife is very helpful to them. She should have just says, what's this about? I have no obligation to disclose or say anything to you or talk to you. If you have facts and evidence or a warrant, implement it. If not, then have a nice day. But anyway, they told me about the story. I was at work. So I remember calling up, looking for who these people were, because I couldn't imagine they would come to the house. And I was wondering, maybe they were fraudsters or some sort of scam. Anyway, I went ahead and called the DEA in New Hampshire, and I said, do you have agents so-and-so, these names? They said, yes. I said, oh, yeah, would you have them they're trying to reach me. I'd like to have them contact me. So here's my number. Have them give me a call. And so, yeah, then they call up, and I was like, yeah, did I have any reporting requirement of any sort? It's like, no. And it's like, I said, okay. So, I said, so listen, send me the statute and code that governs this subject matter and what you're doing with your contact information, and mail that to me so I can check it out. All right. And they're like, okay. And so that's what they did. It came in, big pack, showed all that stuff. It was like, they highlighted stuff and all that. But see, what I did was I put them to work giving me information about what it is they're doing and whatnot. And that was the end of it. So there was no issue there. But the bottom line is you're in charge, and that's what you have to learn about you, is who you are. You're the constituent. You are the power center. all power from government comes from the people. But if individuals don't know that, then they're not going to be able to wield that. And it's not a fight. If you were the CEO of your company, you don't walk around fighting with all of the people in your company. And if you're a tyrant, you're not going to have a very company for very long. No one wants to work for you. So it's that's something that you can actually learn how to deal with. And so next week, when I have a client that's going to come on and is going to talk about what life was like before she became a client and why she was interested in our work, how it's been, how the process was, changing her status and all that. And then I'm going to have her talk about, she has a business. And so I'm going to talk to her about how that was, how difficult it was, what was the challenging things. And she's got a great attitude. And so that's what's going to happen next week is that she's going to be on. We're going to talk about that. And so she and I will end up talking about dealing with governments and how you're dealing with it. So we'll talk about some things that are on their plate now in which they're dealing with government on different areas, especially in the area of business. Right. So anyway, so that's what's coming up next week. So let me see. Now I can do that music thing. How do you know? You don't want me to do it? Oh, I'll try it. Okay, well, I'll try it. I'll see if I can. Oh, okay, that's cool. Oh, let me get into. Really? Well, let me still give it a shot if I can. Okay, let me see. Another comment. See, are you going to be in Anarchapulco with Jeff Berwick next February? Yes, I am. Michael and I both will be there. And so I'm looking to do a different kind of presentation, being free and independent. That's one of the talks I want to do there. And then I probably will do a class. I'll take 2 days in the morning to do a class at that event. So that's what I'm hoping for. So, and yeah, so if you go, we'll love to hang out. We'll do some dinner, have drinks and all that. It'll be a lot of fun. So that'll be cool. So, what's that? Yeah. All right. Anyway. All right. So anyway, so thanks so much for being on. Be sure to like and subscribe and all those things here. We're working on and making plans for getting into a studio so we have some consistency in our broadcasts and all that. I'm glad you're on. If you have questions, just reach out to us at DestinationFreedom.org. Email us at statecitizen@DestinationFreedom.org. And we'd like to help you keep all of your living. Wouldn't that be great? All right. So take care. Have a great night. We'll see you next time on Destination Freedom.